The final thing I have, Madam Chairman, is on a completely different topic, but it is relevant to the season we're in, and the point you made at the end of yours about participating in the upcoming election and registering to do so. You know, Arlington has a reputation that goes back a lot longer than any of us for being a community in which the people really participate. It's known not just internally but externally as a place that, you know, it's not just that it's a good place, but people have the sense that it's a good place because the people in the community really care about it, that they've participated directly, and it's a place that you can participate directly. You know, Arlingtonians get involved in every kind of thing, from, you know, issues about trees to transportation to, you know, suicide prevention, to all the range of things that we've talked about today, and that, you know, many others beyond that. And that's because they believe that if they get involved and volunteer, they can make a difference, that actually it matters. You know, you don't have to be somebody well-connected. You don't have to be somebody, you know, who's wealthy and influential because you can write big checks to people. You just have to get involved, and that has been a fundamental part of our identity as a community, and frankly, of the reason that we have been able to be the kind of great place that people like so much. So that's been really important. And one aspect of that is that, you know, some people get involved just on the policy side. Some people choose to get involved in politics and campaigns. Some people do both. But nobody thinks that, you know, the only thing that matters is if you could write, you know, huge checks to somebody. Everybody thinks if you get involved, the strength of your ideas and your willingness to participate matters. That's an idea that, you know, is fundamentally American. That, you know, I think we can be proud of having, you know, been able to exemplify more perhaps than some other places. But it really is something that goes back to, you know, New England town meetings and the writings of Thomas Jefferson. It is something that is clearly threatened in our country at a national level today. And there are a number of reasons for that, but not the least of which is a decision by the United States Supreme Court about a year and a half or so ago in a case that a lot of people have heard about called Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. It was decided on a 5-4 vote, and it pretty much opened the floodgates for money from private sources, mostly big private sources, to come into politics in a way never seen before. Again, it's not that that started the problem. We've had that issue for some time. But we had some efforts to, through legislation, contain it and reduce the influence of money in our campaigns, and this decision essentially threw out a large part of that. As I noted, it was a 5-4 decision. Justice Stevens, dissenting, said that it was a decision that threatened to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. And he said, at bottom, the court's opinion is thus a rejection of the common sense of the American people, who have recognized a need to prevent corporations from undermining self-government since the founding, and who have fought against the distinctive corrupting potential of corporate electioneering since the days of Theodore Roosevelt. It is a strange time to repudiate that common sense. While American democracy is imperfect, few outside the majority of this court would have thought its flaws included a dearth of corporate money in politics. So what's happened since then? Well, of course, what most people have heard about is the creation of super PACs, which, you know, have become increasingly important in financing the political communication in this country. As of today, September 18th, 2012, 846 groups organized as super PACs have reported total receipts of $349 million, and total independent expenditures already made of about $243 million. Just to give you a comparison, that's in contrast to the political parties themselves, which have raised about or spent about $52 million. So the parties themselves are being vastly outspent by these super PACs. Concern clearly ranges from one side of the aisle to the other. I think a number of things have been said, but a presidential candidate on the Republican side who ran earlier this year was recently on television and said, super PACs are destroying this democracy and everyone knows it. The president has said, money has always been a factor in politics, but we're seeing something now in the no-holds-barred flow of 7- and 8-figure checks, most undisclosed, into super PACs. They fundamentally threaten to overwhelm the political process over the long run and drown out the voices of ordinary citizens. Madam Chairman, I think we all recognize that this is a potential threat to the kind of democracy that we particularly like to practice here in Arlington, and that I think most Americans really believe our country should reflect. And as such, I think something needs to be done about it. There are people seeking to do something about it. There are a number of groups. One of them is an organization called Move to Amend, and I see that we have a few folks here today who are active with that group here in Northern Virginia. I'd like to offer the following resolution concerning this issue. It reads as follows. Whereas we the people adopted and ratified the United States Constitution to protect the free speech and other rights of individuals, not corporations, and whereas the United States Supreme Court's decision in Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission overturned long-standing precedent prohibiting corporations and unions from spending general treasury funds in our election, and whereas Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission and related federal court decisions have unleashed a torrent of money in our political process unmatched by any campaign expenditure totals in United States history, and whereas Citizens United versus Federal Elections Commission and related federal court decisions present a serious and direct threat to our nation's Republican democracy, while standing in direct contrast to our local Arlington commitment to good government, civic and civil discourse, and broad participation in local decision-making, and whereas Article 5 of the United States Constitution empowers and obligates the people and states of the United States of America to use the constitutional amendment process to correct those egregiously wrong decisions of the United States Supreme Court that go to the heart of our democracy and Republican self-government, and whereas the people and states of the United States of America have strengthened the nation and preserved liberty and equality for all by using the amendment process throughout our history, including erroneous Supreme Court decisions, now therefore be it resolved that the County Board of Arlington, Virginia commends the efforts of Congressman James P. Moran and Gerald E. Connolly to address this issue, and be it further resolved that the County Board of Arlington, Virginia supports the growing call for an amendment to the U.S. Constitution to reverse the effects of Citizens United versus Federal Elections Commission and restore fair elections to the American people. Madam Chairman, I move adoption of this resolution.
It's been moved and seconded. Anybody wish to make comments of eloquently said, Mr. Zimmerman, in your introduction? Mr. Fassett?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just would, I think Chris did a good job giving some background on this, and the resolution does a good job of it itself. It clearly describes the situation. I would just draw some particular attention to the fourth whereas clause, where we identify in this resolution what is seen, what we see, I certainly do, as a threat to the long-standing democratic basis of free thinking in the country, and the undue influence that this court decision has provided, and that it specifically contradicts and sort of, as it states here directly, is in contrast to the system that we've long abided by in this particular community and many other localities, which is one of good government and broad participation and a sort of equal access. It is my hope that localities acting on this around the country will create some additional momentum, will help further raise the visibility of an issue that already has some visibility, but actually work toward a practical solution. And that is an amendment to the U.S. Constitution is the best thing that the best option available at this point in time. So I'm very happy to support the motion before us.
Mr. Tejada?
Well, Madam Chairman, I wholeheartedly support this resolution, too. And some might ask, well, why are we weighing in? Why is local government weighing in on this kind of thing? The comments Mr. Fassett just made directly correlates to our way of looking at a democracy, participatory democracy in Arlington. And while certainly we're not perfect, but we serve as a model to many other jurisdictions where citizens can make a difference. One citizen. Remember that when this democracy of this country was founded under the citizen speaker, the ability you're able to raise your hand and give an opinion, and that your opinion should count for something, and that it is not only for the privileged and well-connected that have an unknown amount of money that they can then somehow buy elections. And so occasionally we have weighed in on some issues that affect Arlington or could affect Arlington. And we occasionally have touched on the subject of immigration, where it affects our local community. So there are other examples. This is not the first time. And so I believe this is the right thing to do. This resolution does reflect our values that I'm proud to stand fully behind, and I'll be happy to support in this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Tata. Ms. Garvey?
Oh, thank you. I'm also very pleased to support this. I've been remembering this quote from Benjamin Franklin. I think someone comes, what is it that we have? And I thought it was a monarchy or democracy, so I've just checked Google, which is handy. It's actually a monarchy or a republic. And, of course, Ben Franklin's response was, a republic, if you can keep it. And I think that's what this is all about, is trying to keep it. And I'm very pleased and really appreciate all of the effort that Mr. Zimmerman went to. He really took the lead on this. I also want to really recommend the Citizens to Amend folks and citizens everywhere, because we've got to change the Constitution on this, and it's, I think, only going to happen with really grassroots. It really is all about democracy in this republic, and can we keep it? And anybody listening, this is not... it's a participatory sport. What is it? It's not there's a quote about you just can't stand back and watch it. You got to participate, and that is crucial here, because we've got to keep our democracy. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Well, my colleagues have all been very eloquent on this, and for me, as Mr. Fassett said, the work that we're doing this year around place is all about making sure more voices can come to the table and opening up avenues for folks who might never have thought before that they should be at the table. What we see happening nationally with the onslaught of this money is kind of the exact opposite of that, and it's, to me, I came to this work through that citizen activism. I believe deeply that good ideas come from everywhere, and that, as Mr. Tejada says, the ability of any one person to raise their hand and be listened to matters. And what's going on is making that less and less possible in this country, and that is dangerous. It is a shame, and this is the right step for us to take, I think, to show our community's belief that it's time for something to give here, and it's not the citizens anymore. So, all that being said, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman, for your work on that.